Yo, what's good, YouTube? It's your boy Hawass, aka the B-Ball Files. You know the drill. Make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get right into this video. How many times have you gotten into the old ring debate and someone says that championship doesn't count or that championship's got an asterisk because these players were injured? My favorite being the 2015 Warriors championship doesn't count because Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love were hurt. For a very long time, I genuinely thought that was a valid take. But the saying injuries are part of the game is actually very true. It's actually scarily true. I did some digging and took a look at the last 15 years, and you might be surprised to find out that major injuries help determine who wins the championship every single year. Starting off with this year, 2022, Chris Middleton. I don't remember what the injury was. It doesn't matter. All I know is that Chris Middleton goes down in round one versus the Bulls, and he'd be out for the rest of the playoffs. If Chris Middleton is healthy for the entirety of the Bucks run, I think one, they beat the Celtics, and two, they go all the way to the finals and go back to back. The Bucks pushed the Celtics to 7 games. Giannis did his best carry job. If Chris Middleton's there, I doubt it even goes 7 games. I think the Bucks go all the way to the NBA Finals and win the championship. No discredit to the Warriors. 2021, Kyrie Irving. It's a 2-1 series. The Nets are in control. Game 4, Kyrie Irving lands on Giannis's foot and sprains his ankle, and he's done. He's gone for the rest of the playoffs. James Harden was also hurt in that series. He was just out there for moral support, but realistically, James Harden was not at 100% either. If those two guys are healthy, there's no question in my mind the Brooklyn Nets win that series, go all the way to the NBA Finals and win the championship. If those guys were healthy, those guys are OP. Nobody was beating those guys. And KD, like Giannis this year, does his best carry job, pushes the Bucks all the way to Game 7. If his toe is just behind the line, they advance in that series. If they're at full strength, they beat the Bucks, and I think they go on to the championship and win the title. Another major injury that happened in the 2021 postseason was Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard goes down, I believe, in Game 5 versus the Utah Jazz in round 2. The Clippers would go on to beat the Jazz without Kawhi, go to the conference finals, and lose to the Suns in 6. If Kawhi's healthy, there's no question in my mind the Clippers beat the Suns. First of all, shame on the Utah Jazz for not taking advantage and beating the Clippers without their best player. The Clippers go on to face the Suns in the conference finals, push them to 6 games. If Kawhi's there, they're beating the Suns, simple and plain. And they're going to the NBA Finals, and they have a legitimate shot to win the NBA championship. And lastly, a third major injury. Y'all might not like this one, but I don't care. I will argue this till the day I die. If Anthony Davis is healthy, the Lakers have a legitimate shot to win the NBA championship. The Lakers are up 2-1 at home, Game 4. Anthony Davis gets hurt. The Suns win Game 4, win Game 5, and win Game 6. Listen, the Lakers were the defending champions. They were just ravaged by injuries. The Suns took advantage of a bunch of injured teams, including the Lakers, on their run to the NBA Finals. I genuinely believe the Suns only beat the Lakers because the Lakers were injured. And all of us who were claiming that the Suns' run was fraudulent last year were looking like geniuses because look at the Suns, how they flamed out this year. Absolutely disgusting. 2020. Bam Adebayo and Goran Dragic. How unfortunate is it to lose 2 of your starters in the NBA Finals? Dragic would get injured in Game 1 and miss the rest of the series, while Bam would miss Games 2 and 3. Now, while I don't think the Heat would have won the title even at full strength, they have a legitimate case to say that they could have. The series went 6 games with the Heat missing 2 of their starters. Maybe if they're there, the Heat are the 2020 NBA champs. 2019. My goodness, do y'all love this one. Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson. I don't got to get too deep into this one. We already know what happened to these two in the NBA Finals. A lot of people discredit the Raptors championship. Many people believe if KD's healthy, even forget KD, if just Klay is able to stay healthy for the rest of that series, that the Warriors win the championship. If the Warriors are fully healthy, do they win the NBA championship? I don't think so, but I'm biased. But bias aside, 2 players of that caliber missing the NBA Finals, they 100% would have had a huge impact, and it definitely could have swung the series. 2018, Chris Paul, Game 5, series tied up at 2-2. The Rockets are about to take a commanding 3-2 series lead against the unstoppable Golden State Warriors. Chris Paul has the ball. He goes up for a layup and pulls his hamstring with a minute left in the game. Chris Paul would miss the remaining 2 games of that series. The Warriors would come back and win in 7 to advance to their 4th straight NBA Finals. I wholeheartedly believe that if Christopher Emmanuel Paul is healthy for the rest of that series, the Houston Rockets beat the Golden State Warriors and go to the NBA Finals. Now, I can't say 100% that they would win the title. They probably win the title, but I can't 100% say because I can't discredit Bron, but the Houston Rockets probably go to the finals and they probably win the championship. The 2018 Rockets were so elite, man. They were so elite, and they'll just never get their dues. They'll never get their praise because of that horrific injury, and they just never got their shot at it. 2017, Kawhi Leonard. It's game one of the Western Conference Finals. Kawhi and the Spurs are cooking the Warriors. Kawhi has 26 points before he has to leave with an ankle injury thanks to Zaza Pachulia shot. Now, I know the 2017 Warriors are arguably the greatest team of all time. They were unstoppable. They went 15-1 in the playoffs that year. But Kawhi Leonard was third in MVP voting that year. The Spurs were a 61-win team, and Kawhi is one of those guys. If he's healthy, the Spurs definitely have a shot at beating the Warriors and winning the NBA title. 2016, Andrew Bogut. Most famously known for the Draymond suspension that would alter the series, but Andrew Bogut would go down with a knee injury in Game 5 of the NBA Finals and would miss the remainder of the series. Now, I know Andrew Bogut isn't the same tier of player as the other players I've named on this list, but Andrew Bogut was a key and pivotal piece for the Golden State Warriors. Bogut played a huge role defensively, especially against the likes of LeBron James, who lives at the rim. With Bogut out now, LeBron James and Kyrie Irving could freely attack the basket, helping them make the 3-1 comeback and stealing the championship. 2015, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. Kyrie, I think, is the more significant injury because I feel like the Cavs still could have won without Kevin Love. But Kevin Love would go down in round one versus the Celtics, and Kyrie Irving would go down in game one of the finals against the Warriors. So now you have a series where it's LeBron, Delly, and Timothy Mozgov against the 67-win Golden State Warriors. They put up a good fight. I think a lot of us were surprised to see it go 6 games with how little firepower they had next to LeBron. I think this is the most popular and most discussed injury on this list. I think we all know, though, if Kyrie's healthy, that the Cavs win that championship. 2014, Serge Ibaka. Ibaka would suffer a calf injury in the second round versus the Clippers, and he was expected to miss the remainder of the playoffs, but Ibaka would just miss the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals before returning in Game 3. The Thunder would lose the first 2 games, but then Ibaka would return and help them win the next 2. The Thunder would eventually lose this series in 6, but you can't help but wonder, would the Thunder have won this series if they had Ibaka from the start? Ibaka was their defensive anchor. Could he have helped them steal one of the first 2 games in San Antonio, or maybe even both? Truth is, we'll never know. But it definitely played a factor in a series where both teams were so evenly matched. 2013, Russell Westbrook. Fresh off of their first trip to the NBA Finals in 2012, the Thunder came back the next season and would have the second best record in the league, only behind the Miami Heat. The two were on a crash course for a rematch of the 2012 NBA Finals before Patrick Beverley would injure Russell Westbrook. Westbrook would miss the remainder of the playoffs, and with the second half of their two-headed monster out with injury, the Thunder were doomed. 2012, Derrick Rose. This might be the most tragic one. Derrick Rose was my second favorite player. I loved everything about him. He was destined for greatness. Coming off of his MVP season, and may I add, the youngest MVP ever to this day, Rose and the Bulls were favorites to win the NBA title. They were, as everyone expected, on their way to a rematch with the Heat, who eliminated them in the prior year's Eastern Conference Finals. Then game 1 of the first round versus the Sixers happens. 1 minute left in the game. The Bulls are up 12. Derrick Rose doesn't even have to be in the game. Rose drives, hops, and boom. Derrick Rose tears his ACL, and he would never be the same again. Just with one drive, the Bulls' championship hopes, not just for that season, but for the next decade, would be shattered. 2011, Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq would have an Achilles injury that would unfortunately lead to the end of his career. That season, Shaq would miss 27 games and play a total of 12 minutes during the playoffs before calling it quits. While at the tail end of his career, this was nowhere near prime Shaquille O'Neal, but he still played a valuable part for the Boston Celtics. Especially after the Celtics traded away Kendrick Perkins at the trade deadline, Shaquille O'Neal was expected to hold down that center spot for the Celtics. The Celtics were the defending Eastern Conference champions and were looking to make another trip to the NBA Finals, but the combination of trading away Perkins and losing O'Neal to injury made the Celtics front line very thin and easy to exploit for a team like the Miami Heat, especially with the likes of LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. The Heat would eliminate the Celtics in 5 games in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Another major injury that could have potentially been in this spot for 2011 was to Caron Butler. Caron Butler would miss the entire postseason for the Dallas Mavericks in 2011, but the Mavericks would go on to win the championship, so I don't think this affected the Mavericks negatively. Is it possible that if Caron Butler was fully healthy and playing for the Mavericks, that he could have somehow messed up the chemistry and feng shui of the 2011 Mavericks? I highly doubt it, but you never know. Anything's possible. 2010, Kendrick Perkins. Kobe Bryant has 15 points in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Kendrick Perkins has said it himself on record. If he's healthy and playing in Game 7, there's no way in hell he's letting Kobe Bryant get 15 boards. Again, in series where both teams are so evenly matched, I think an injury to someone in the starting lineup can be the difference between losing and winning the championship. The Lakers won that championship in the final minutes of Game 7. If Kendrick Perkins is healthy and playing, there's no doubt in my mind he makes a difference. 2009, Kevin Garnett. I don't think this one gets brought up enough. A lot of people like to clown the Big Three Celtics because they act like they won multiple championships when they only won one. But the truth is, if it weren't for injuries, those Big Three Celtics would have multiple championships. After winning the 2008 championship, the Celtics came in the following season as a way better team. Very similar to how the 2015 Warriors won the chip and took off in 2016. The Celtics started the season off 27-2. They had a 19-game winning streak and had the best record in the league at 44-11 until their best player Kevin Garnett went down with a knee injury. Without Kevin Garnett, the Celtics would only go as far as the second round, where they would lose to the Orlando Magic, who would eventually go to the NBA Finals and lose to the Lakers. The Celtics Big Three was the first modern-day super team. Way before the Heatles, way before Golden State, way before Brooklyn. This was the original modern-day super team. And I think people downplay how cheap these guys were because they didn't win multiple titles. I promise you, if it weren't for injuries, this team would have won 3 titles in a row. Trust me, I hated this team. There's no bias here, but they were just that much better than everyone else. If KG doesn't get hurt in 09 and Perkins doesn't go down in 2010, the Boston Celtics Big Three three-peats. No question in my mind. 2008, Andrew Bynum. Andrew Bynum would dislocate his kneecap during the regular season for the Los Angeles Lakers. This would be the first of many knee injuries for Bynum in his career. Without Bynum, the Lakers were still able to push through the Western Conference and advance to the NBA Finals, where they'd be matched up against the Boston Celtics. It was in this series where they truly felt the loss of Bynum. KG absolutely dominated in this series. Having another 7-footer and Andrew Bynum next to Pau Gasol would have been very helpful to deal with the likes of KG and Kendrick Perkins. The Lakers would end up losing this series in 6 games, getting absolutely smoked in Game 6. While I personally don't think the Lakers would have won if Andrew Bynum was healthy, just because I think the 08 Celtics were that great, he definitely would have had an impact on this series. Enough impact to maybe potentially shift the outcome. So as you can see, there is literally an injury every single year that directly impacts who wins the championship. That's why there's that saying, the healthiest team wins the championship. So I don't think you can use injuries as an excuse anymore. Literally everyone gets injured. In the end, it all evens out. The best player on your team could be injured this season, but then next season you might run into a team where their best player is injured. So basketball just kind of has a funny way of working itself out in the end. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for taking the time out of your day and watching this video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. The NBA season is just around the corner. B-Ball Files will be at an NBA arena near you. Stay tuned. Thanks again and peace.